Kobe and Dennis on the same team. Who's the biggest superstar?
You.
No, and had the baddest woman I've ever seen in my life.
He was bad, man. Dennis was a machine. In Detroit, he was a machine, man. He could guard anybody on the floor. He had the psychological games. He'd get in your head, like, you know, before the game, you give a dap. He squeezed my ass a little too. It wasn't like,
what's up?
It wasn't like, let's go. So now you're thinking. Y'all really want to play this? You're like, you running down the court, you know, thinking about this motherfucker. Why he getting every fucking offensive rebound there is. Because he knew how to, you know, get physical and play, you know, and fly. I mean, but his foot speed matched mine. So all my little quick shit was, so you had to be ready. But I was ready. But yeah, Dennis was he was a beast, man.
So early on, Dennis Rodman, with no hand check and with hand check, had the agility to move with any point guard in the 90s. I'm talking Isaiah, I'm talking Dumars, I'm talking your favorite guard, I'm talking Mark Price, John Stockton. He had the agility, meaning that if we want to do the hammer, y'all remember the hammer, go, and you slide and you go left, put him in the mix, y'all remember that?
Oh, man.
He could slide left to right laterally with anybody. He was 6'9" and had the movement of a point guard. So defensively, he didn't give a fuck about a switch. And he long, and guess what at the end? He was physical at the end of whatever he did. So if it was a rebound, it was post out, he would go get the rebound. If he had to contest, he would contest. He played like a Draymond, but more in control. And he wasn't as dirty, I'm not gonna say, you know what I'm saying? But he had tactics where he wouldn't use his elbow, he'd use his body. You know, he would run into you and take the rebound. He would outwork you.
I followed Dennis' career, and I think he was one of the guys that kind of helped motivate me coming from a small school and knowing that I could make it to the NBA. He came out of Southeast Oklahoma, great rebounder, and I followed him and realized then that I had an opportunity to play at the next level just because of his hard work and his hunger and his journey that he had been through. This guy really fitted in with the bad boys is because he was a winner. He was a leader, and his basketball IQ is off the charts. And I had an opportunity to experience that playing alongside him. Everyone knows that, you know, he was, you know, a part of a great team, but they didn't realize how great a rebounder Dennis was when he was with the bad boys.
Right.
You know?
I didn't know either.
And, you know, so a lot of his individual skills never really stood out, but you know, when he was able to come and join us with the Chicago Bulls, we not only got the greatest rebounder of all time, but we got a basketball player that had a very high basketball IQ, and he knew how to win. It wasn't about just the leaders in Detroit, but they had a great piece here. A guy that was hungry and wanted to be known at the end of the day, as we know now.
Best game I've ever seen Dennis Rodman played. I had one of the best seats in the house because it was against my beloved Indiana Pacers. March 4th, 1992, we're an upstart young Indiana Pacers team. They were still the bad boys of the Central Division of the Eastern Conference and champions and so forth. In Detroit, here we are trying to make a name for ourselves. And it was a pretty good game, but Dennis Rodman put on an absolute rebounding clinic.
Top of the key, no. Rebound, Rodman. Great pass by Worm.
Again, Rodman keeping it alive. How many times does he get his hands on the basketball?
His career high, 34 rebounds, 18 of them at the offensive end. We went down in overtime to the Pistons, but it was an unbelievable rebounding performance by the Worm, the great one, Dennis Rodman.
I tell you, that Dennis Rodman is a one-man wrecking crew.
Phil now, his whole motive is to get Dennis back in shape. Everybody starts running in a line, and Phil blows a whistle. Whoever's at the back, run to the front. Now, you can't stop. Whoever's in front controls the pace. So I tell everybody in that group, say, look, whoever gets in the front of that row, slow down to a fucking walk. We're just gonna jog and jog and jog and jog. Dennis takes off. Boom. Now, he blows a whistle. Now, we cannot stop until we get back in front of Dennis. It took us 4 laps to catch up to Dennis.
Worm was like, could he play? Not only could he play in this league, but he would have been in problem because you had to be physical. That's an engine. Man, that's an engine, bro. That's an engine. That's an engine. And niggas didn't want to play against him either. Dennis Rodman?
Worm, I think the Worm just doesn't get a lot of credit for how smart he was, how good his basketball IQ was. You know, he did all the dirty work, you know, dove on the ground, you know, took charges, got into people's heads, you know, frustrated them. But the Worm had a very, very good IQ. And a lot of people really didn't know that about him. They just thought he was just a crazy man running around with, you know, all kind of colors in his head. But it was a reason why he fit in with Chicago was because of his IQ. Dennis Rodman didn't care about scoring the ball. You know, Dennis Rodman can go 0 points, but 15 rebounds. He take 2 charges, may get 4 or 5 assists. He impacted the game where it's not really in the stat sheets other than the rebound.
And he's now your teammate.
Yeah.
And this is a unique cat.
Yeah.
I mean, he is.
That's an understatement right there, yeah.
How did oil and water mix?
Yeah. You know what? And I love Dennis. I really do. He's an unbelievable player, incredibly athletic. He was like Superman. Like he just, you know, just a freak of nature. A guy could run all day long, never got tired, and was like the Energizer Bunny. I loved having him next to me on the court because you always felt like, you know, you just got a warrior with you. So on the court, he's a great guy to have next to you. In the locker room, it's a little different story, but you know.
The main thing I used to marvel how he would stand straight up. He showed no tendencies to butt that, you know, the basics of defense and how you do it. The guy could run all day. He could run all day, man, in the game. He never got tired. That's why you saw him diving in his stands all over the floor.
Hey, Hector, come on. Rodman embarrassing the Knicks now off the glass.
He was in after the game. You should ride the stationary bike.
Bro, we played these motherfuckers. He played 43 minutes, dog. I think he ended up getting kicked out because he kicked the cameraman and shit. I go in the back, Joe. I'm tired as shit. Man, Lord on the motherfucking treadmill in combat boots up to his goddamn knees, running on a 15 incline at a 15, 17, like talking to me. Yeah, big fella got big fella tomorrow in Jersey. You know what I'm saying? He don't know what he's doing with. Damn, where what you doing? Just working out, you know what I'm saying? After games, he talking to me while he's running. I'm like, bro, this nigga's a fucking engine. I looked at him like on some mystique, bro.
You really cannot talk about the NBA from a historical perspective without talking about Dennis Rodman. Because in my opinion, that's how much of an impact that he made, which is rare for someone with his notoriety that don't have no interest in scoring the basketball. And that's normally where you get most of your glory from is offensively. But he took pride on the defensive end, and at 6'8", I think he led the league in rebounding 7 consecutive years, and a heck of a defensive player also.
There's no place to throw it. Hakeem inside, shot short, there's the horn.
You know, in college, I used to always go up to the Pistons and work out with them and watch him. You know, this was before he turned into Dennis Rodman with the tats. But the thing that amazed me as a young player was watching a guy go through his practices, or sometimes after the game, and I go in the locker room with John, Sally, and Joe and Isaiah and talk, and he'd be on the treadmill or he'd be on the Stairmaster. And they say he would do an hour after a game. You know, so for me to see a guy that just played a game and his ability to go get on the Stairmaster for another hour, and then also playing against him. I never had a guy that I didn't think I could go around at 6'8", standing straight up, and laterally he could still slide his feet and draw a charge. To me, that was unbelievable.
You know, he wasn't the most skilled guy, but when you talk about the greatest athletes to ever play in the NBA, I think Dennis Rodman is in that category. When you think about the stamina, what you talked about, Charles, just the way he lived his life and to be able to play with that kind of energy night after night, the way he could run, especially early when he was with the Pistons and he would chase people down and guard every position. That guy could have been a world-class triple jumper or 400-meter sprinter. I mean, he was incredible.
And Shaq, this is a guy, too, who, I mean, you played with him a little bit in L.A., but playing against him, wasn't he? He's one of those irritating, get-under-your-skin kind of guys, right? Would it be fair to say, yeah, love having him on my team for what he does, but when you're playing against him, I'd rather not?
He was a great defender. He always moved his feet. The great thing about Dennis Rodman is he always did it his way. when I played with him, like, you know, you're supposed to be there an hour and a half before the game. He would come in with 45 on the clock, eating chicken and rice. And nobody would say anything because we knew that he was going to give us 20 to 25 rebounds at the game. And so, you know, he did it his way. He rode the treadmill after the game. And, you know, Steve was right. He was a phenomenal athlete. Phenomenal.
You know, Ernie, I saw that irritating problem. Because Michael used to joke to me all the time. What I would do is, I just punch him as hard as I could at the beginning of the game, and he would leave you alone.
Yeah, you sure would.
He would. You just had, because Michael used to, Charles, why you keep doing that? I said, dude, he stopped, because he stops irritating you and bugging you once you clock him. I would just punch him as hard as I could, like in the first 5 minutes of the game.
He gave me my first job, Country Day. He used to go play video games. I was in high school. He'd be up there playing video games with kids in the arcade. You remember this? And so he gave me my first job. I go up, he's like, you want to come up and camp? I'm like, yeah, thank you, Mr. Rodman. You know, I go up there, he pays me, he's working with all the kids, and then he plays with us for 3 hours after. Just plays with us. He wasn't shooting all that, running and doing all that, but he played with us, and he didn't have to. It was other Pistons, other people there, and, you know, seeing his work ethic.
Dennis Rodman, the way he rebounded the basketball and the way he played, he made rebounding and defense sexy. You know, and not only did he make it sexy, he also figured out how to get paid for just rebounding and playing defense. And again, in our era, you didn't get paid for rebounding. And I remember, you know, we in the layup line, and I was on him about, hey man, you know, you got to get loose. You got to, you know, get some layups. And he's like, no, I want to watch, you know, the rotation of the ball, how many times guys, you know, he was counting the rotation, like Joe's ball, like, you know, spins like 3 times in the air. You know, this guy spins like 2. And I had never heard anyone talk about rebounding in such a scientific way.
Dennis took the responsibility of guarding the other team's top scorer all the time, regardless of who he was.
Here's Jordan at 1-and-1 now.
Rodman won't give an inch.
He is truly the only person I've ever known that could guard all 5 positions. And I don't mean just guard them a little bit, clamp down and shut down.
In addition to his 7 all-defensive first-team selections, Rodman also won 7 straight rebounding titles, averaging a staggering 16.7 boards over that span. Quite a feat for a player not much bigger than a shooting guard.
Most people think he's 6'9", 260. And Dennis was maybe a half an inch taller than me at 6'6", 220. And he impacted the game a lot bigger.
There's Dennis again. He doesn't even have to score a basket to turn a game around with his rebounding ability.
You got to throw him in the category of some of the greats, like Bill Russell.
Rebound Rodman. He's unbelievable at that. Best in the league.
Like a Wilt Chamberlain.
Rodman's tap is rebound number 34.
Because he used to dominate the game just on rebounds alone.
Oh, the dandy rebound from Dennis Rodman.
That's one of the greatest defensive players to ever play this game. That's a fierce competitor. Dennis wasn't much of a talker as much as he was like a pest. Would try to get in your head and do stuff to try to get you out of your game. That was his strong suit.
I came in 96, 97, 98, right during that championship run and played against them. And obviously we know how great the Bulls were and how dominant they were. And you understood why. Dennis Rodman's the best rebounder that I ever went against, the strongest guy I ever went against. A guy it was virtually impossible for me to post up, just too strong. And I played against Dennis Rodman in the era where you can hand check. And that's the worst to be, because that's where he's at his best, because he's able to use his body and hand check and control.
Whenever we went on the floor and we were in deep championship playoff series, this guy would be in his own world about winning, you just saw it dripping off of him. You just saw on his face the passion he had for the game.